faithfully convey value and interpret great books from around the world. Hi, this is Sally with Book Talk. Today, we're diving into the biography of Rockefeller, exploring the wealth creation secrets of the world's first billionaire. The author is Ron Chernow, a renowned American biographer. Chernow was born in 1949. Fortune magazine hailed him as America's best biographer, and his debut work, The House of Morgan, won him the National Book Award. This Rockefeller biography was written at the invitation of Random House. 14 minutes, Chernow didn't jump at the offer right away. He figured if Rockefeller was just a gifted but cold-blooded monster, or a harmful tycoon like in past biographies, he'd turn it down. Only if Rockefeller was a deep, charismatic guy with intimidating self-control would he possibly take on the biography. So Chernow wanted to get to know the real Rockefeller and hear his own voice first. He went to the Rockefeller Archive Center to dig into millions of family documents. Staff pulled out an unpublished file, a whopping 1,700 pages long. Now, it was a journalist's private interviews with Rockefeller from 1917 to 1920, which for some reason never saw the light of day. After burying himself in that record, Chernow was floored. The guy everyone called quiet and boring turned out to be clear-headed, articulate, passionate, and pretty witty and sharp. Like, the moment Chernow got home, he rang up the editor at Random House. He was all in on writing the book. Published in 1998, it got rave reviews right out of the gate and was named Best Financial Work of the Year by Business Week. Time magazine picked it as Book of the Year. The Economist also crowned it Best Biography of the Year. This bio is called The Go-To Authority on Rockefeller, still unmatched today. This book, with 35 chapters, it starts with Rockefeller's ancestors arriving from Germany around 1723 and wraps up with his death on May 23, 1937, at age 98. It shows not just Rockefeller's legendary and controversial wealth journey, but also paints a vivid picture of American society from the late 1800s to early 1900s. And this book is essentially a condensed distillation of Rockefeller's nearly century-long life. So next, I'll break down the book's main content into 5 parts for our discussion. Part 1 covers Rockefeller's early years, how he became the oil tycoon, his management philosophy, his philanthropy, and his personal life. First, let's explore Rockefeller's upbringing environment and his early experiences. On July 8, 1839, Rockefeller was born in Richford, New York. Back then, it was barely a fledgling town, with just a few sawmills, a grist mill, a whiskey distillery, a school, and a church. Rockefeller's parents married in February 1837 and were considered the most mismatched couple.
In town, people called Rockefeller's father Devil Bill.
Bill was a crack doctor who peddled homemade herbal remedies to farm women. It's said Bill originally wanted to marry another pretty girl, but she was poor. Later, Bill eyed the wealth of Rockefeller's mother's family and courted Eliza Rockefeller. Simply put, he was a smooth-talking pauper who married rich. But after marriage, Bill brought his former lover home as the housekeeper. Over the next 4 years, 4 children were born under that roof, 2 by Rockefeller's mother, including Rockefeller himself, and 2 by the housekeeper. And this was just the beginning of the misfortunes in Eliza's life, the start of an unhappy marriage. Later, Rockefeller's father frequently disappeared, leaving Eliza alone to raise the kids and manage the farm. Life was incredibly hard. With such an absent father, Rockefeller learned more from his mother, essentially becoming more like her through osmosis. For instance, his mother was steady-tempered, never losing her cool, raising her voice, or scolding others. Rockefeller inherited this quiet, unassuming authority. He also learned fine qualities from her, like meticulous budgeting and frugal homemaking. Additionally, Eliza taught her children to calmly think things through before deciding. Her catchphrase, "Let's wait and see," became Rockefeller's lifelong business motto. In his later business years, he always adhered to this motto. The family moved several times, and in 1853, at the start of the year, the father moved the family by train to a small Ohio town about 10 miles from Cleveland. Cleveland at that time was an emerging city of 30,000 people and a vital transportation hub. Rockefeller's grand career later launched from this very city. In 1854, 15-year-old Rockefeller entered the local high school, where his favorite subject was arithmetic. He showed exceptional mathematical talent in his studies. Rockefeller originally wanted to attend college, and his mother hoped he'd become a Baptist minister someday. Though his father didn't live with them, he promised to cover Rockefeller's college expenses. But one day, he unexpectedly got word from his father. College was off the table. At that moment, Rockefeller realized it was time to find work. Before job hunting, Rockefeller took a 3-month course at Folsom Commercial College. This was essentially crash training in double-entry bookkeeping, plus basics of banking, foreign exchange, and commercial law. Immediately practical skills. In August 1855, 16-year-old Rockefeller began his ambitious job search in sweltering Cleveland. He admired big corporations, so he zeroed in on railroad companies, banks, and wholesale warehouses. Unfortunately, his job hunt didn't go smoothly. Under the blazing sun, he dressed neatly by 8 every morning. In black trousers, high stiff collar, and black tie, he'd go for scheduled interviews day after day, 6 days a week for 6 straight weeks. As Rockefeller put it, I had one job every day, job hunting. I devoted all my time to it. He visited every company on his list, but still no results. But stubborn by nature, he grew more resilient with each rejection, returning to some companies twice or even thrice. Then, on September 26th, good news finally arrived. He landed a job as assistant bookkeeper at a company handling agricultural product transportation. From then on, Rockefeller celebrated that day annually as Employment Day, more lavishly than his birthday, a tradition he kept even when surrounded by grandchildren. In the autumn of 1854, Rockefeller was baptized at a shabby Baptist church near his home. From then on, he not only attended services, but also contributed significantly to the church. And as a Baptist, Rockefeller never participated in recreational activities like dancing or playing cards. His private life revolved solely around church socials and dinners. And as his faith deepened, he became convinced his business ventures had divine approval. Nearing 80, Rockefeller once said, "I've had constant financial blessings, as if heaven sent, because God knew I'd return it to society." Echoing 18th century British theologian John Wesley, Wesley stated, "Those who earn and save, if also givers, will receive greater divine grace." All right, that concludes part 1. We see Rockefeller's family of origin was troubled. Though his father lived, it functioned like a single-mother household. Yet the virtues he learned from his mother served him throughout his life. Ironically, it seemed heaven arranged for his father to indirectly compensate him. When they moved to Cleveland, it was reportedly just because his father's new mistress lived nearby. Who would have guessed this place near future oil discoveries would become an oil refining hub, bringing the family immense wealth? After 3 years at the Cleveland firm, Rockefeller clashed with his boss over wages. His performance was exceptional, yet he wasn't fairly compensated. Just then, a business opportunity came knocking. Rockefeller left the company and officially began his entrepreneurial journey. Now let's dive into part 2. How Rockefeller became the oil titan step by step. Rockefeller had a Folsom Commercial College classmate, Clark, 29, 10 years his senior, who'd worked at an agricultural sales firm. Impressed by Rockefeller's accounting skills, Clark proposed they each invest $2,000 to start an agricultural products company. Rockefeller only had $800 saved at the time. His father had promised each child $1,000 at 21, now agreeing to advance it but charging 10% interest. Rockefeller accepted the terms, so in April 1858, Not yet 19, he became his own boss, a true career milestone. In Rockefeller's third year of entrepreneurship, the American Civil War broke out, bringing huge growth opportunities for his company. The war elevated Cleveland's strategic position, making it a crucial logistics hub for Northern Army supplies. Their profits skyrocketed to $17,000 in 1862, nearly quadruple pre-war annual earnings. This wealth accumulation phase gave Rockefeller the capital to later enter the oil industry. Oil's value was discovered before the Civil War. It was refined into kerosene for lighting, found in northern Pennsylvania, not far from Cleveland. Despite limited transport options, oil could reach Cleveland from the fields in just one day. Cleveland had geographic advantages for refining, needing only an oil distiller. Incredibly simple. For just $1,000 and a few hires, you could start a refinery. Cheaper than a store, yet more profitable. Suddenly in Cleveland, everyone, restaurateurs, pastors, tailors, rushed into oil refining like gold fever.
By 1863, 20 refineries had sprung up in the city.
Rockefeller's first step was investing $4,000 in a new refinery. He saw it just as a side venture, never expecting refining to replace their core business. Yet within a year, refining outpaced their agricultural trade, becoming their top moneymaker. By 1865, when the Civil War ended, this refinery became Cleveland's largest. Processing 500 barrels daily, double its closest competitor, it ranked among the world's biggest refineries. Rockefeller then spent heavily to buy out his partner's shares, finally unleashing his full potential. In December 1865, Rockefeller and his new partner Andrews launched a second refinery, Standard Oil, cementing his status as Cleveland's top refiner. In the early days, Rockefeller personally handled everything, working tirelessly at both refineries. The top priority was fire prevention. Other factories and oil fields had seen too many fatal accidents. Rockefeller later recalled, "Whenever fire bells rang, everyone rushed to help extinguish the blaze, no matter whose refinery was burning." But what worried Rockefeller more than fires was whether the oil wells would run dry. What if no new wells were found? No one had answers back then. Rockefeller saw this as God testing his favor. Just before an unforgettable event occurred. In late 1867, days before Christmas, he missed a train that later crashed, killing many. He wrote to his wife, "I truly believe it was God's will." He felt divinely spared to continue his oil mission, a public service. After America's oil discovery, Europe rapidly became its key kerosene market. By 1866, two-thirds of Cleveland's kerosene was exported to Europe. On September 26th, good news finally arrived. He landed a job as assistant bookkeeper at an agricultural transport firm. From then on, Rockefeller celebrated that day annually as Employment Day, more lavishly than his birthday, a tradition he kept even when surrounded by grandchildren. In autumn 1854, Rockefeller was baptized at a shabby Baptist church near his home. From then on, he not only attended services but actively contributed to the church. As a Baptist, Rockefeller abstained from dancing, card games, and similar recreations. His private life centered solely on church gatherings and meals. Deepening faith convinced him his business had divine approval. Nearing 80, Rockefeller reflected, "My constant fortune felt heaven-sent. God knew I'd repay society." Echoing 18th century theologian John Wesley. Wesley stated, "Those who earn and save, if also givers, will receive greater divine grace." All right, that concludes part one. We see Rockefeller's family of origin was troubled. Though his father lived, it functioned like a single-mother household. Yet the virtues he learned from his mother served him throughout his life. Ironically, it seemed heaven arranged for his father to indirectly compensate him. When they moved to Cleveland, it was reportedly just because his father's new mistress lived nearby. I would have guessed this place near future oil discoveries would become an oil refining hub, bringing the family immense wealth. After 3 years at the Cleveland firm, Rockefeller clashed with his boss over wages. His performance was exceptional, yet he wasn't fairly compensated. Just then, a business opportunity came knocking. Rockefeller left the company and officially began his entrepreneurial journey. Now let's dive into part two, how Rockefeller became the oil titan step by step. Rockefeller had a fulsome commercial college classmate, Clark, 29, 10 years his senior, who'd worked at an agricultural sales firm. Impressed by Rockefeller's accounting skills, Clark proposed they each invest $2,000 to start an agricultural products company. Rockefeller only had $800 saved at the time. His father had promised each child $1,000 at 21, now agreeing to advance it but charging 10% interest. Rockefeller accepted the terms, so in April 1858, not yet 19, he became his own boss, a true career milestone. In Rockefeller's third year of entrepreneurship, the American Civil War broke out, bringing huge growth opportunities for his company. The war elevated Cleveland's strategic position, making it a crucial logistics hub for Northern Army supplies. Their profits skyrocketed to $17,000 in 1862, nearly quadruple pre-war annual earnings. And it was precisely this stage of wealth accumulation that enabled Rockefeller to later enter the oil industry. The value of oil was discovered before the Civil War. Back then, oil was refined into kerosene for lighting, found in northern Pennsylvania, not far from Cleveland. Despite poor transport conditions, oil could be moved from the fields to Cleveland in just one day. So Cleveland had a geographical edge for refining. Simple enough with just an oil distiller. For $1,000 and a few hires, you could start a refinery, cheaper than a store, and way more profitable. Suddenly in Cleveland, everyone, restaurateurs, pastors, tailors, rushed into oil refining like gold fever. By 1863, 20 refineries had popped up in the city. Rockefeller's first step into the industry was investing $4,000 in a new refinery. He saw it just as a side gig, never expecting refining to replace their main business. Yet within a year, refining outpaced their agricultural trade, becoming the top moneymaker. In 1865, when the Civil War ended, this refinery became the largest locally. Processing 500 barrels daily, double its closest rival, it ranked among the world's biggest refineries back then.
Rockefeller then spent big to buy out his partner's shares, finally unleashing his full potential.
In December 1865, Rockefeller and his new partner Andrews launched a second refinery, Standard Oil, cementing his status as Cleveland's top refiner. In the early days, Rockefeller personally handled everything, working nonstop at both refineries. Fire prevention was top priority. Other sites had seen too many fatal accidents. Rockefeller later recalled, "Whenever fire bells rang, everyone rushed to help, no matter whose refinery was burning." But what worried Rockefeller more than fires was whether the oil wells would run dry. What if no new ones were found? No one had answers then. Rockefeller saw this as God testing his favor, right before a life-changing event occurred. In late 1867, days before Christmas, he missed a train that later crashed, killing many. He wrote to his wife, "I truly believe it was God's will. He spared me to continue my oil mission, a service to mankind." After America's oil discovery, Europe quickly became its primary kerosene market. By 1866, 2/3 of Cleveland's kerosene was exported to Europe. Early on, Rockefeller knew every employee by name and personally attended every Standard Oil hiring session. Naturally, once staff grew to 3,000, direct involvement became impossible. He encouraged direct feedback, cared deeply about workers' lives, and offered generous wages and pensions. A veteran employee later recalled, "We never had a single strike or complaint against the company." You just don't find companies that care for veterans like Standard Oil did anymore. Remember, back then strikes were routine. Steel mills, coal mines, yet Rockefeller set the gold standard. A biographer noted, "He was the era's best employer, pioneering hospital subsidies and pensions, though Rockefeller thoroughly tested employees. Once trusted, employees gained significant autonomy. Rockefeller rarely intervened unless major errors occurred. As the company expanded, delegating authority became essential. Once Rockefeller asked a new hire, "Has anyone explained the rules here? Never do what others can do for you. Find someone trustworthy, train them for your role, then focus on increasing company profits." Rockefeller practiced what he preached. Only this way could he free himself from trivial matters to focus on grander plans. Moreover, Rockefeller was meticulous in everything, never sloppy when writing business letters. It said he wrote hundreds of thousands of business letters, tirelessly revising them for conciseness and clarity, then neatly signing his name. This spirit inspired every employee in the company. Of course, Rockefeller, who inherited frugality from his mother, was also deeply concerned about production costs. He always said, saving a penny in one place could save thousands more across the whole company. Once, during a factory inspection, he saw workers welding oil barrels and asked how many drops of solder it took for each lid. The plant expert replied, 40 drops. Have you tried 38? Rockefeller asked if they tried, but they hadn't. He had them test it. Some barrels leaked with 38 drops, but 39 worked perfectly. So 39 drops became the new standard for all refineries. So Rockefeller remembered this even after retirement, saying this move saved the company $2,500 in the first year. Later, as oil exports surged and barrel demand grew, savings accumulated to hundreds of thousands of dollars by his retirement year. All right, that concludes part 3. As his enterprise grew, Rockefeller knew how to delegate and understood that every penny saved was crucial. As an entrepreneur, Rockefeller demonstrated management skills worthy of an MBA textbook. Now, moving from his management principles, let's enter part 4, Rockefeller's philanthropy.
From age 16, after starting work, Rockefeller donated 6% of company profits to charity.
His influence in philanthropy was as vast as that of Standard Oil. As his income soared, so did his charitable donations. Beyond churches, Rockefeller focused primarily on education and healthcare. His first major philanthropic project was founding the University of Chicago in the 1890s. In 1913, after years of planning, the Rockefeller Foundation was finally established, with Rockefeller's son, John D. Rockefeller Jr., elected as its chairman. During its first decade, the foundation focused on public health and medical education, both domestically and internationally. In June 1913, the foundation's first philanthropic initiative was a global campaign against hookworm disease. Hookworm. Ultimately, this campaign reached 52 countries, curing millions, and the foundation also has deep connections with China. A medical university in Beijing, funded by the Rockefeller Foundation in 1921, became Peking Union Medical College. For this project, Chairman John D. Rockefeller Jr. personally visited China for research. By the 1920s, the Rockefeller Foundation had become the world's largest philanthropic organization. Of Rockefeller's lifetime $530 million in donations, $450 million went directly or indirectly to medical fields. He became history's largest non-medical donor to the medical community. This foundation became the Rockefeller family's multi-generational legacy. To this day, the Rockefeller Foundation remains active on the global stage. When Rockefeller passed away, people seem to forget the controversial oil monopolist. Many newspapers that had criticized Rockefeller for decades over Standard Oil's monopoly unanimously hailed him as a generous philanthropist and modern charity's greatest organizer upon his death. That concludes part 4. Now, let's explore the final part, what the generous philanthropist Rockefeller was like in daily life. As mentioned earlier, Rockefeller had a philandering father, and his mother essentially raised the children alone. Rockefeller cherished his mother, and fortunately, had a happy marriage with his wife Seti. Married in 1864, they shared lifelong devotion and raised 3 daughters and a son. Though Rockefeller owned half of Cleveland's largest refinery at the time, they lived frugally without hired help. His son, John Jr., later recalled, wearing hand-me-down dresses from his three sisters until age 8 as the youngest child.
And more interestingly, Rockefeller's parenting methods were faithfully replicated by John Jr. with his own children.
For example, children earned allowances through chores, like swatting flies, gardening, or polishing shoes. A dime for every 100 flies killed. Not tiring work, just tedious counting. Rockefeller maintained strict routines, having set a goal early on to live to 100. After retirement, his daily schedule was rigorous. 6 a.m. newspaper reading, 7 to 8 a.m. walk, 8 a.m. breakfast, followed by an hour of correspondence, golf, 1 p.m. lunch, afternoon drives, 7 to 9 p.m. dinner, and 10:30 p.m. bedtime. This cycle repeated with clockwork precision. At 96, Rockefeller collected $5 million from his insurer. His policy paid out if he reached that age, an exceptionally rare feat at the time. Otherwise, the insurer would have faced massive losses. When Rockefeller died in 1937, 6 weeks shy of 98, he was buried between his mother and wife, the two women he cherished most. The business titan was also a devoted husband and father, frugal, disciplined, and profoundly fulfilled despite falling short of his century goal. His son declared, "Father was inimitable. No one could replicate him. There will only ever be one John D. Rockefeller." John D. Rockefeller! From the Civil War's end to the early 1900s, America experienced unprecedented economic ascent. Mark Twain's Gilded Age, an unrepeatable era that produced equally irreplaceable figures. That concludes our interpretation of Rockefeller's biography. Find notes below the audio. Until next time.